Get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to a viewer replay. I thought after the last couple of my replays we'd have a bit of light relief. Ho ho ho. No? Funny joke? No? No? Okay. This is from Goldenhook, who is in his M5A1 Stuart. This is actually an 8.9 replay, so bearing that in mind that this was before the recent matchmaking changes, this is pretty nice matchmaking for a Stuart, tier 7 only. In fact, most of the teams are tier 7. On the enemy side, we have a Crusader who has been very unlucky, and his platoon mate in a Covenanter who is even more unlucky, all things considered. But that's why you don't really do that kind of cross-tiering platooning. The Stuart's not a bad little tank. It's fairly nippy, it's not got a terrible view range. I think I actually preferred this Stuart to the American Stuart. But the thing is, you have to play through this Stuart to go further up the Chinese tree. There's no avoiding it unless you use free XP. So, in that regard, it's not so great. If you're not really into scouting, the fact that they make you play a scout, even these days, it still has what is now scout matchmaking. I was going to say, it has scout matchmaking. Well, it does still have scout matchmaking, it's just that's changed. It's still got what is scout matchmaking, so it's still not going to be the same as non-scout MM lights, but it's not terrible. So he's spotted a couple of heavies already, and there are some teammates behind him. Now this is going to give me an opportunity to reiterate really what I've said before about scouts, light tanks, in that it's very, very team dependent, incredibly so. In most other classes, you have a lot more potential to do damage yourself. You have more of a direct influence on the outcome of a battle. Now that's not to say you can't in a scout, but it's very dependent on maps to begin with, what map you get given. And this is 38 NAs just going in with no regard for personal safety. Goldenhook managed to just hit the friendly Tiger, but luckily it bounced. It is only a 47mm gun, but still better than what the American Stuart gets. I think that only gets like a 37mm. Or the dirt. There's always the dirt. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so you can influence the battle more directly, and artillery is another class that's very team dependent, but in artillery you're still doing damage in theory. In scout tanks, until you get to the higher tier scout tanks, tier 7 and 8, that's not really the case. So there's the Covenanter down. He might have an opportunity to move up here, do a bit more spotting. Really depends what's behind these guys. It looks like they're kind of backing off though. The T-29's dead. The T-20's rapidly retreating. That Tiger down there is far back enough to have not been a factor in this initial engagement. Now look around the spawn. There's actually 3 heavies. The T-29 that hasn't moved, and a pair of ISs that have barely moved. So despite that, normally that would be a terrible thing, but despite that, there are a lot of, in fact this is a very heavy match, if you see what I mean. I'm just full of the puns today, apparently, that barely even qualifies puns, let's be honest, but still. The fact that the 3 of those guys are effectively not contributing right now apparently doesn't even matter. We are winning, and it's the fact that this team is good enough that we are winning, that the enemy team is bad enough that we're able to brush them aside with relative ease. This gives Goldenhook an opportunity, it gives him a window that ordinarily, in a light tank, it's hard to open it yourself. You can always try and make a run for enemy artillery, of course. Sometimes, given the circumstances, this is great for trying to find enemy artillery and take out enemy artillery. If there was a bunch of enemy tanks there, it would be way more risky, probably way more suicidal. The chances of being taken out would be a lot higher, because this is not especially a fast scout. It's alright, but it's not ELC fast, it's not MT25 fast. A lot of the tier 4 scouts are not really good at that sort of thing. You have to be way more opportunist, and you have to have your fingers crossed that your team's going to be good enough, or that the enemy team is going to be bad enough. One of those two to give you a window. So there we go, we found the enemy artillery. The enemy team really not too great. We actually had a panther that went back to the spawn and is now sitting also at the spawn. Not sure why. Goldenhook's just kind of looking to see he's not going to get hit there, and yep, there's enemy artillery. Can take this guy down fairly easily. There's a chance he'll hit him, but no, guy fires and misses. Goldenhook's also been doing... I mean, he's obviously got some good scouting habits going here as well, because he's been using the bush cover well. He's been doing things like waiting for his binoculars to come up. He's obviously paying attention to the minimap. Rear of a tiger, ordinarily juicy target, but no, his one-shot bounces. Also, there's an SU-152. 150... what? I don't even know. I just made up a number there, apparently. Whatever. Anyway, the 152 just kind of dives around the corner, doesn't even try firing. Goldenhook initially looks like he's going to try and make a run for it, but then changes his mind, because the guy just comes in around the corner and Goldenhook goes, oh, okay, it's going to be like that. And he's able to get round behind him. The rear armour is not particularly great on this, but it's enough to bounce. But the rear superstructure armour is paper thin, so Goldenhook's just quite happily peppering this guy with holes. The SU-152 definitely could have played a lot smarter under the circumstances. Yes, there was enemies closing in from all sides, but giving your rear to a scout tank like that, that's always inevitably fatal in a tank destroyer, unless you get exceptionally lucky. So it's just taking up the last couple of enemies now, just clearing them up. And I don't think... I mean, Goldenhook could try rushing forward for the IS, but there's no point in incurring more costs, really, I suppose. And he's very unlikely to actually be able to hurt the IS, given that he doesn't have any premium ammo. He's only been packing AP rounds the whole time, and most of the targets he's gone after have been really soft. Apart from that SU-152, or 50, whatever it was, I managed to mangle that as. But he got him in the rear superstructure, and that was easily penetrable. So that was an ace tanker, that was pretty good. He was lucky in that his team was good enough, or that the enemy team was bad enough, to give him that window, to open that window, where he could go forwards, he could get round behind the enemy, he could find the artillery, he could get some spotting damage. A lot of the time, it's hard to make that window for yourself. You're really waiting for the circumstances to arise for that kind of light tank playing, and sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes the team gets, maybe it's the map, maybe it's the teams. The team gets gridlocked, or you end up looking for an opportunity on a flank, and suddenly the enemies are pushing, and that's it, you've had it. Or that the enemies are just effectively blocking any passage you might have, or that there are enough of them that pushing forward would just be suicidal. Even if it would be a momentary distraction, sometimes that kind of distraction tactic can work, sometimes it can be valuable, even if you explode. But again, it depends on your teammates actually doing something, actually taking advantage of that. So he was lucky in that the circumstances were there, but he had to then grasp that opportunity. He had to see the window and jump through it, and I'm going to kill this metaphor at this rate, but it does require some brains even so. Even if the right circumstances exist, you still have to take advantage of those circumstances. So score-wise, he was actually top of the team there, 1255 base XP. He was quite lucky, as I've said, or have I said? I don't know. But given that this was 8.9 matchmaking, for tier 7s only, to walk away with that kind of score, that's pretty nice. He actually did more damage than a whole bunch of the heavies on his team. There was a, let's see, T29, both ISs, one of the Tigers, the T43, the Jagdpanther, the Grilla. He did better than all of them. He did better than the majority of the enemy heavies as well, damage-wise. A lot of it was very opportunistic damage. A lot of it was kind of damage that he was, in a way, lucky to pick up. But no, I think he used his brains there, and I think he took the opportunities as they came up. And that is the essence of scouting. That is the essence of light tank playing, is keeping on your toes and just hoping that your team isn't a complete duffer, because if it is, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So, if you liked this light relief, oh my word, I had to use it again, didn't I? You can hit the like button, you can leave a comment below, you can subscribe to my channel, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.